Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Vinny sent me a note that said, Steve, there's a recall on ATVs your audience might want to know about because it involves so many ATVs. And I looked at the date of the recall, and it's actually a couple months ago, so it's not brand new, fresh news in that respect. But the recall caught my attention. So I'll tell you about that in a second. But Polaris recalls recreational off-road vehicles due to a crash hazard. This is a recall alert from the CPSC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, and they're at cpsc.gov. But I'm pointing that out because it's not from NHTSA. And you might think something you sit on and drive sounds like a vehicle, but the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is for highway vehicles, and ATVs generally are off-road vehicles. So this does say Polaris recalls recreational off-road vehicles. And the name of the product we're talking about, of course, is from Polaris, and it's known as an RZR, which I'm guessing is Razor, and General. And so there's two different types. There's the Polaris RZR and the Polaris General. And the problem is the steering wheel can separate and result in the loss of control, posing a crash hazard. So the steering wheel can separate. Separate is a term that engineers use for falling off. So something falls off, they go, oh, it's separated. And I had a client once driving down the road and had his steering wheel separate and fall off into his lap. And he managed to put it back on and get the car over the side of the road. But that was a long time ago. But in this case, on these vehicles, the steering wheel can separate, result in loss of control, and pose a crash hazard. Now, the remedy is that they'll repair it. A lot of times the remedy will say some specific repair, just says here, they'll repair it. The problem, of course, is it affects 8,800 units, most of which in the US, but 940 of them are in Canada. So if you're in Canada with a Polaris RZR or Polaris General made in the last couple of years, you're going to want to check to see if your vehicle is involved in this recall. You can go to cpsc.gov and type in recall number 22-714. 22-714. That'll get you this recall notice I've got in my left hand here. The recall details are something like this. The recall involves certain vehicle identification numbers of the following recreational off-road vehicles. And then there are literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different models of the Polaris off-road vehicles, including the RZR Turbo S Velocity, the General 1000, the General XP, the General XP 4 1000, and so on. And they're all from model years 2020, 2021, and 2022. And so that's a wide range of vehicles. 8,800 is a lot of vehicles. And the steering wheel can separate. And of course, that's a sad thing when that happens. It can involve a loss of control and poses a crash hazard. The models, by the way, are also sold in a variety of colors. Apparently that's important. Including black, blue, copper, gray, navy, orange, sands, metallic, red, tan, and white. The General was sold in black, blue, burgundy, graphite, gray, titanium, tan, and white. The vehicles are made in both 2-seat and 4-seat configurations. The name is stamped on the front grille of the vehicle. The model name is on the side, and the VIN is located on the vehicle's frame in the left rear wheel well. And so there's a whole list of these things. Like I said, you want to identify your vehicle and see if it's on this list. If you've got one, you should immediately stop using it. Stop using it. And contact a Polaris dealer to schedule a free repair. They will also install a new steering wheel. Polaris has notified consumers to stop riding the vehicle. They'll be contacting all registered owners directly to provide more details about the repair. But if yours is not registered somehow, they might not be able to get back to you. Now, here's the deal. Polaris has received 33 reports of broken or cracked steering wheel spokes, including 5 reports of rollovers and 2 reports of injuries. So there have been 33 reports of the part breaking and 5 reports of rollovers and 2 reports of injuries. Now, it doesn't say there's any other non-rollover accidents, but these were sold at Polaris dealers nationwide from July 21 through October of 21, and the price was approximately $18,600 to $28,900. So very expensive ATVs there. And they were made by Polaris Industries of Medina, Minnesota, manufactured in Mexico. So that's the vehicle with the steering problems. And the reason that it caught my attention is that I bought a UTV. So it's like an ATV, but it's a UTV. And it's a little tamer of a version. It's a vehicle you can ride off-road, and it looks kind of like an off-road vehicle, but it also looks a little bit like a golf cart. Now, it's got a roof on it, but it's got a little dump pickup bed on the back, and you can put stuff back there. You can haul dirt around in it. You can put tools back there, and two people can ride in it. So I have this vehicle, and I had it for about 6 months, and I'm driving along one day, and I go around a really sharp corner, and something weird, and everybody's had this happen, where you're so used to how something feels. When you do it and it feels different, you know something happened, but you can't quite put your finger on it. So I'm driving along, and I come to a really sharp turn, and I go to turn, and I'm at a fairly low speed. And I turn, but the vehicle just kind of only half turns. And so I take my foot off the gas before I hit anything. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I thought I turned enough to make that turn. So I back up, and I spin the wheel to try to do the old jockey thing. And as I'm spinning the wheel, I notice I have to spin it more than I did before, but it is working. I can look like this and just see the tires are turning, right? And the tires are turning. So I'm like, okay, something weird's going on here. But I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things. I'm just having a weird day, you know? So I straighten out. I'm driving along, and it's driving along just fine. It's holding a straight line just fine. And I do this with the wheel a couple times. I notice that when I do this lightly, nothing happens. It keeps going straight. If I do it more so, it turns. So somehow the steering's still kind of working, but not completely working. So I know there's a problem here. So I get it back to my garage, and I pull it into the garage, and while it's stopped, turn the wheel, and the wheel will turn, and these wheels don't turn. So there now is what we call, whether it's a literal one or not, a disconnect between what I'm doing with the steering wheel and what's happening with the steering of these wheels. So I go inside my house, and I type in to the Google the name brand of my ATV and the words steering problems, and up pops a million hits. It turns out that my ATV, UTV, whatever you call it, has been recalled due to problems with steering failure. Now, I never got a notice. It's kind of weird. So I go to the CPSC site and I read the recall. And then I go to the manufacturer's website, and they mention it there too. And then I call my dealership where I bought it. And I said, hey, look, I got this vehicle. I think it's subject to a recall. The steering just failed on it. And the guy goes, give me your information. I give it to him. He goes, no. He goes, yours has got electronic power steering. And only the ones with manual steering have been recalled. I said, okay. I said, but mine is clearly doing the exact same thing. Guy goes, that's a coincidence. I said, really? And he goes, yes. Seems odd to me. The guy goes, well, the good news is it's under warranty still. So it doesn't matter. If it was under a recall, it'd get fixed. Under warranty, it gets fixed. We'll come get it and we'll handle it for you. And they did. And I got it back, and it's fine. But I'm just wondering, what are the odds that my UTV has the exact same problem as the other ones, but mine's electronic power steering versus non-electronic. So apparently it wasn't subject to the recall. So I did file a complaint with the CPSC just because they have a place where you can log complaints. And if I'm the only person who logged one with a electronic power steering, then maybe they'll say, oh, that was just a one-off. But if more people log those, maybe they'll say, oh, it turns out it's a wider problem than we thought, wider spread problem. So this, of course, is a problem with the steering wheel up here. And my understanding is that in my case, if you go around and look through the wheel well, you can see where the steering column, the rod, comes through the firewall. and goes into a box, and then that controls the steering. And I'm assuming, because I saw some language someplace, that said that that rod that comes in has got splines on it. And somehow it separates this way. It comes out, and then it just spins freely either direction. And why it comes out, I don't know. So I didn't actually look inside there, take it apart, or do anything like that. All I know is I took it in there, they fixed it, I got it back, it's under warranty, I'm good. But it just sounded a lot like the other recall from the CPSC. But that explains why I hadn't gotten notified, because they said that mine was not considered part of that recall because it didn't have the exact same problem that the other ones were having, because mine was configured differently. At least that was the story. However, back to where we started, if you've got a Polaris off-road vehicle manufactured or with a model year, I guess would be a better way of saying it, of 2021 or 2020 or 2022. I didn't see a 2020 in there until I already started. So from 2020 to 2022, a Polaris off-road vehicle, you need to double check to make sure that it's not part of a recall. And if it is, stop driving it and get it fixed. They'll fix it for free. That's what they do under a recall like this. Vinny, thanks for sending it. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Frisbeetarianism is the belief that when you die, your soul goes up on the roof and gets stuck.